Right now, as you settle in for the night, something ancient and precise is beginning inside you. You may not feel it yet, but the machinery has already started turning. Your core body temperature has begun its slow descent, dropping by nearly 2 degrees Fahrenheit over the next few hours. The muscles along your spine are loosening, one by one, in an order laid down long before you were born. Your eyes have registered the fading light. A small gland near the center of your brain has begun releasing a hormone your body has relied on every night of your life. Tonight, we're going to follow what happens next, all the way through. From the threshold, through the stages, into the deep, and out again. You don't have to stay awake for it. In fact, you probably won't. Somewhere along the way, the words will become a soft current, and the current will carry you down. That's the point. You were built for this. Every system inside you was designed for the descent you're about to take. And for the next 90 minutes or so, we're just going to watch it happen. We tend to think of sleep as something that simply arrives. One moment we're awake, the next we're gone. But the truth is that falling asleep is one of the most choreographed processes your body performs. It is not a switch being flipped. It is a symphony already playing long before you become aware of it and continuing long after you lose consciousness. The signal starts with light, or more precisely, with its absence. Hours ago, as the sun began to fall below the horizon, specialized cells in the back of your eyes, cells that don't help you see but help you keep time, began sending a quieter signal to a small cluster of neurons deep in your hypothalamus. That cluster is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It is, in essence, your body's master clock. It has been running since the day you were born. It keeps time for every organ, every tissue, every cell you have. When the master clock registers the dimming of light, it sends a message forward. That message travels to the pineal gland, a small, pine cone-shaped structure buried near the center of your brain, and it gives a single instruction: begin. And the pineal gland begins releasing melatonin. You may have taken melatonin in pill form at some point, as an aid to sleep. Your body has been making its own every night of your life without ever being asked. In fact, it has been getting ready for tonight since this morning. The moment light first hit your eyes today, a timer started. 14 to 16 hours later, depending on your age, your biology, your habits, melatonin production would begin again. And that moment has already passed. Your melatonin has been rising for hours now. By the time you feel drowsy, it has already been at work for a long while. Melatonin is not what puts you to sleep. This is a common misunderstanding. Melatonin is the hormone of darkness. It is a signal, not a sedative. It tells every system in your body that night has arrived, that it is time to begin the shift from activity into restoration. It is less like a sleeping pill and more like a conductor raising a baton. What follows is the music. And what does the music sound like inside you? It sounds like this. Your body temperature, which has been at its daytime peak for most of the afternoon, begins to fall. This is not an accident or a byproduct. It is engineered. Sleep is a cold process. Your brain needs to cool in order to descend into its deeper states, and your body cooperates by opening the blood vessels in your hands and feet, allowing heat to escape through your extremities, like a slow release of steam from a radiator. This is why your feet sometimes feel warm just before sleep, and why many people struggle to sleep in a room that is too warm. You are trying to lose heat. Your body is trying to drop. At the same time, your heart rate begins to slow. Your breathing deepens, grows more regular. The muscles that have held you upright all day begin to let go. You might notice a sigh escape you as you settle into bed, an exhale longer than the inhale that preceded it. That sigh is not random. It is your parasympathetic nervous system coming online. The branch of your nervous system that handles rest and restoration is taking the wheel. The branch that handles action and alertness is stepping back. None of this is conscious. You did not decide to begin releasing melatonin. You did not choose to slow your heart. You did not instruct your blood vessels to open in your hands. These things are happening because they are built into you. They have been happening every night of your life, and they will happen tonight, whether you pay attention or not. But tonight, we're paying attention. Because what's coming next is even more remarkable. Before we cross into sleep itself, there is a space most people never think about. A threshold. A doorway between waking and dreaming that has its own strange and beautiful biology. Scientists call this state hypnagogia, from the Greek words for sleep and guiding toward. It is the zone you pass through on your way down. For most people, it lasts only a few minutes, and most of it is lost to memory. But while it is happening, some of the most interesting things in a night of sleep are occurring. In hypnagogia, your brain is still awake, but it is no longer behaving the way it does during the day. The tight, organized patterns of waking thought begin to loosen. Images may drift across your mind unbidden. You might see faces you've never seen before, or places you've never been. You might hear a voice, your own name perhaps, spoken from somewhere just out of reach. You might experience what feels like a sudden falling sensation, and your whole body might jerk in response. This is called a hypnic jerk, and nearly everyone has experienced one. For a long time, scientists didn't know what caused them. Current findings suggest they may be the result of your motor cortex misinterpreting the profound muscle relaxation of oncoming sleep as falling, and issuing a quick, defensive contraction to save you from a fall that isn't happening. Whether that explanation is complete remains a matter of some debate. What is clear is that hypnic jerks are not a sign of anything wrong. They are, in a sense, a signature of the threshold itself. Evidence that your brain is crossing from one state into another, and that the crossing is real enough to generate a physical response. Research suggests that hypnagogia is also a period of unusual creativity. Thomas Edison famously used to drift into this state on purpose, holding a steel ball over a metal plate as he sat in a chair. When he fell fully asleep, the ball would drop and wake him, giving him access to whatever strange associative ideas had been drifting through his mind in the moments before. Salvador Dali did something similar. Researchers have revisited this technique in recent years and found that problems tackled just before entering deeper sleep are often solved at higher rates, suggesting there is something about this loosened, threshold state that allows the mind to make connections it cannot make while fully awake. But for our purposes tonight, what matters is what is happening in your brain during this crossing. Because while your mind is drifting through its strange imagery, your brainwaves are doing something very specific. They are changing. During full wakefulness, your brain produces beta waves, fast, low-amplitude oscillations that correspond to active thought, focus, problem-solving, and attention. As you relax tonight, whether in bed or on a couch or in a warm bath some hours ago, your brain likely shifted into alpha waves, slightly slower oscillations associated with calm, reflective states. You may have felt this, the mind becoming quieter, the breath softening, the edges of the day receding. As you now approach sleep, alpha waves begin to give way to theta waves. Theta is slower still and more irregular, the brainwave signature of deep relaxation, daydreaming, and the drift into hypnagogia itself. When your brain is producing theta, You are no longer fully in the world, but you are not yet fully gone either. You are, in the most literal, biological sense, between. This is the space you are in right now, or somewhere close to it, if you are listening in bed, with the lights low and your body settling. And in this space, a remarkable handoff is happening. The branch of your nervous system that has been in charge all day, the sympathetic branch, which handles alertness and the mobilization of energy, is quietly ceding control to its partner, the parasympathetic branch. The parasympathetic branch is what your body uses to rest, digest, and repair. It is also sometimes called the vagal system, because so much of its activity is carried along the vagus nerve, which wanders through your body like a great river, branching into your heart, your lungs, your gut, your throat. As the parasympathetic branch comes online, your heart slows further. Your breathing becomes even more regular, even deeper. Digestion, which has been suppressed for much of the day in favor of action and alertness, begins to ramp up. Blood flow shifts away from your muscles and toward your internal organs. The surface of your skin cools, your core cools, your extremities warm. Every system in your body is preparing to enter a different mode of operation. And then, at some point, a point you almost certainly will not be able to identify, even if you tried, you cross. You fall asleep. We often talk about falling asleep as though it is a single event, a moment that can be marked. But it is not, really. It is a process that unfolds across several minutes with no clear boundary. Sleep researchers have a specific definition for when sleep begins. The moment when brain activity, eye movements, and muscle tone all shift into the pattern characteristic of stage 1 sleep. But in practice, even subjects hooked up to detailed monitoring equipment cannot reliably report the exact moment they crossed. Most people, when awakened from stage 1 sleep and asked if they had been asleep, will say no. They will say they were just thinking, that they were just about to fall asleep, that they hadn't quite drifted off yet. They had. They just didn't know it. This is because the crossing is soft. There is no alarm, no jolt, no curtain falling. Your brain simply begins behaving slightly differently, and the world around you begins to recede, and at some point you are no longer here in the way you were a few minutes ago. You have entered stage 1 sleep, the first of 4 stages your body will move through tonight, and the first 5 to 10 minutes of your night have just begun. Stage 1 sleep, which sleep researchers refer to as N1, is the lightest stage of sleep you will experience tonight. It is also the shortest. On an average night, you will spend only about 5% of your total sleep time in N1, perhaps 20 to 25 minutes, broken into small windows scattered throughout the night. Most of it happens right at the beginning, in the first few minutes after you cross the threshold. N1 is sleep, but it is sleep that sits very close to the surface. If someone were to call your name right now, softly from the doorway, you would likely wake up easily, and you would probably deny that you had been asleep at all. You might feel a little startled, a little confused, as though you had been pulled from somewhere you did not know you had gone. This is because N1 sleep does not feel, from the inside, very different from deep relaxation. The mind continues to drift. Images still come and go. Thoughts still surface. But something has changed. What has changed is that your brain has begun to produce theta waves more consistently, and your ability to respond to the outside world has diminished. If someone were to speak your name at normal volume, you might stir, but not wake. If they spoke it more softly, you might not respond at all. Your awareness of the room around you has faded. You are, for the first time since you woke up this morning, no longer tracking the world. Your eyes are also behaving differently. Beneath your closed lids, they are moving, but slowly, rolling, drifting from side to side in a way quite different from the quick, darting movements they made when you were awake. This slow eye movement is one of the signatures of N1, and sleep researchers use it, along with the theta waves and the reduced muscle tone, to identify this stage precisely. Your muscles, meanwhile, have continued their quiet surrender. The muscles of your jaw have loosened. Your mouth may have fallen slightly open. The muscles of your shoulders and neck, which often hold accumulated tension from the day, have released. If you were being monitored in a sleep laboratory right now, the technicians watching the screen would see the electrical activity of your skeletal muscles, measured through small sensors placed on your chin and legs, drop noticeably from where it was a few minutes ago. Not gone, but lower, quieter. Your heart rate has slowed further. By the time you are well into N1, your heart may be beating 10 to 20s, beats per minute slower than it was when you first lay down. Your breathing has deepened into a slow, regular rhythm. Your core body temperature has continued its descent. The room temperature that felt comfortable when you got into bed may start to feel a little cool now, because your internal thermostat is still coming down, and the gap between inside and outside is widening. And yet, despite all of this, N1 is considered a transitional stage. It is the border country between wakefulness and the deeper stages of sleep to come. Most of the important restoration of the night does not happen here. N1 is primarily a passageway. It is your body's way of getting from the world of waking into the world of sleep, giving each system time to shift gears. If your night goes well, you will pass through N1 relatively quickly. Within about 5 to 10 minutes of crossing the threshold, your brain will begin to change again. Theta waves will continue, but something new will start to appear. Brief, rhythmic bursts of faster activity, lasting only a second or two at a time, that look like small flares on the monitoring equipment. These are called sleep spindles. And when sleep spindles begin to appear, you have moved from N1 into N2, the second stage of sleep, and the stage where you will spend more of your night than any other. But before we follow you down into N2, it is worth pausing for a moment to appreciate what has already happened in the few minutes since you first lay down. Every system in your body has shifted its operating mode. Your nervous system has handed control from its active branch to its restorative one. Your hormones have begun a cascade that will continue for hours. Your brainwaves have slowed from the fast, busy patterns of waking into the slower, quieter patterns of sleep. Your eyes have stopped tracking the world. Your muscles have let go. Your heart has slowed. Your breath has deepened. Your temperature has dropped. And you did none of this. Not consciously, not deliberately. Every piece of it happened because your body knows what to do. It has known what to do since you were born. It knew what to do when you were a child, when you were a teenager, when you were younger than you are now. And it will continue to know what to do for every remaining night of your life. There is something deeply reassuring about this. In a world where so much requires our attention, our effort, our will, sleep asks nothing of us. It only asks that we let it happen. The biology will do the rest. Let it. The shift from N1 to N2 is marked by those small, rhythmic flares I mentioned a moment ago, the sleep spindles. And they are not just an incidental feature of this stage. They are part of why N2 sleep matters as much as it does. A sleep spindle is a quick burst of rhythmic brain activity, around 11 to 16 cycles per second, that lasts somewhere between half a second and 2 seconds. They appear in clusters, dozens of them per hour, scattered throughout the second stage of sleep. For decades, scientists weren't entirely sure what they were for. They just knew they were there. They knew they were reliable. They knew that healthy sleepers produced them in predictable patterns, and that certain conditions, aging, illness, neurological disease, could disrupt them. But research over the past 2 decades has begun to reveal what sleep spindles are doing. They appear to play a significant role in memory consolidation. Specifically, they seem to be involved in the process by which the brain transfers information from its short-term holding areas, primarily the hippocampus, into its longer-term storage, spread across the cortex. Studies have shown that people who produce more sleep spindles tend to perform better on memory tasks the following day. People who are deprived of N2 sleep show specific kinds of memory impairment. Not all memory, but the memory of things learned recently, the memory of skills practiced the day before. Your brain is, in other words, using this stage of sleep to remember what happened to you today. The conversations you had, the things you learned, the places you went, the people you encountered, the skill you practiced. All of it is being reviewed, organized, and filed into its proper place. And the sleep spindles are the signature of that process in action. There is another feature of N2 worth mentioning, and it is one of the strangest and most elegant things the sleeping brain does. It is called a K-complex. K-complexes are large, distinct waves, a sharp negative peak followed by a slower positive rise that appear periodically during N2 sleep, seemingly at random. But they are not random. Research suggests that K-complexes are triggered, at least in part, by external stimuli. A sound in the hallway, a light flickering on outside, a slight change in the environment. When such a stimulus occurs, your sleeping brain evaluates it, and in most cases, decides that it does not warrant waking. The K-complex is, in effect, the brain saying, "Noted, but not important enough to rise for." It is a kind of micro-decision made thousands of feet below the surface of awareness. This matters because it is part of what protects your sleep from constant interruption. Your brain, even while you are deep in N2, is still monitoring the world. It is still listening. It is still evaluating. But most of what it notices, it dismisses. And the K-complex is the trace of that dismissal, a wave that rises and falls without ever bringing you with it. As you settle deeper into N2, several things happen in your body. Your core temperature reaches its nightly low, typically about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit below your daytime peak. Your heart rate settles into its slowest regular rhythm of the night. Your breathing becomes deep and even. The muscles of your body are almost entirely relaxed, though you may still shift position occasionally, turning from side to back, adjusting the angle of your head on the pillow. These small movements happen because your body still monitors circulation and pressure, even in sleep, shifting weight to protect the tissue beneath you, keeping blood flowing. You will spend more of your night in N2 than in any other stage. On average, N2 occupies about 45 to 55% of a healthy adult's sleep, meaning a solid 4 hours or more of an 8-hour night. It is the largest room in the house of sleep. It is also, in many ways, the most essential baseline. N3, the deepest stage, may do the most dramatic restorative work. REM, the dreaming stage, may do the most visible mental work. But N2 is the stage where your brain spends most of its time, and it is the stage that does the quiet, continuous work of integrating your experience into who you are. Right now, if you are drifting along with this narration, your brain may already be producing sleep spindles. You may already be crossing into N2 or already there. And somewhere beneath the surface of your awareness, your mind is beginning to file away the day. The things you noticed, the things you didn't realize you noticed, the things you did, the things you heard, the things you felt. All of it is being sorted, organized, made lasting. This is one of the ways sleep changes you. You do not wake up as exactly the same person who went to bed. You wake up as someone who has incorporated another day of living into the ongoing architecture of themselves. Sleep is not a pause. It is a process of becoming. And within N2, as the minutes stretch on, something else begins to change. The theta waves that dominated N1 and the early minutes of N2 begin to give way to something slower still. Longer waves, taller waves, waves with a deeper, more rolling character. These are delta waves. And the appearance of delta waves is the signal that you are entering the third stage of sleep. The stage called slow wave sleep. The stage called deep sleep. The stage, arguably, where the real work of the night begins. Deep sleep, N3, slow wave sleep, delta sleep, is one of the most remarkable states your body will enter in its entire lifetime. And most of what happens during it, you will never be aware of. You will never feel it. You will never remember it. And yet it is during these hours that your body does more of its essential restoration than at any other time. When your brain enters N3, something dramatic changes. The fast, busy oscillations of waking thought have long since given way to the slower patterns of the earlier sleep stages. But here, in the deep stage, the slowing goes much further. Your brainwaves become extraordinarily large and extraordinarily slow, half a cycle to 4 cycles per second, vast rolling oscillations that sweep across the entire surface of your brain in synchronized waves. If you were to watch a real-time recording of your brain activity right now, you would see these delta waves crashing gently across the screen, again and again, like the slow breathing of something very old and very deep. In N3, you are farther from the world than you have been in all day. It is the hardest stage to be woken from. If someone were to call your name at normal volume right now, you likely would not respond. If the phone rang, you might not hear it. If someone were to gently shake your shoulder, you might rouse. But you would rouse slowly, confused, disoriented. This confused, groggy state has a name: sleep inertia. And it is strongest when you are awakened from deep sleep. Because in deep sleep, your brain has moved so far from waking that getting back takes time. Minutes, sometimes longer. But it is precisely because you are so far from the world during N3 that your body can do what it does during this stage. Because when the surface is quiet, the depths can move. Within the first 20 to 40 minutes of deep sleep, your pituitary gland releases its largest pulse of growth hormone of the entire day. Growth hormone is one of your body's great restorative signals. In childhood, it drives physical growth, the lengthening of bones, the building of tissues, the development that turns a child into an adult. In adulthood, it continues to play a central role in cellular repair, muscle maintenance, fat metabolism, and the ongoing replacement of tissue throughout your body. And the majority of a day's growth hormone is released not during the day, not during exercise, not during meals, but during this first deep sleep window of the night. This is one of the reasons why the first 90 minutes of sleep matter so much. That is a subject we will return to on another night. For now, it is enough to know that while you lie here, barely moving, barely dreaming, barely aware, your body is being rebuilt. During N3, your immune system is also deeply active. Research has shown that the production of cytokines, small proteins that coordinate immune response, peaks during slow-wave sleep. T cells, which are central to your body's defense against infection, migrate and proliferate with greater intensity during this stage. If you fought off an illness today or began fighting one, Or if your body is simply doing the routine work of monitoring for invaders and clearing out damaged cells, much of that work is happening right now. Sleep is when your immune system does its most concentrated labor. Your brain, too, is doing remarkable work during N3. In 2013, researchers at the University of Rochester made a discovery that changed the way science understands the purpose of sleep itself. They described something called the glymphatic system, a fluid clearance network that operates within the brain, flushing metabolic waste from the spaces between neurons. Here is what is remarkable about this system. It is most active during deep sleep. During slow wave sleep, the spaces between your brain cells actually expand, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to pulse through more rapidly, carrying away the debris of the day, including a protein called amyloid beta, which is associated with long-term brain health. During waking hours, this clearance happens at a fraction of its nighttime rate. It is as if the brain cannot clean itself and think at the same time. It has to choose, and every night it chooses cleaning. The glymphatic system is one of the most exciting areas of contemporary sleep research, and we will explore it in much greater depth on another night. But know this for now. While you lie here in the deep, your brain is being washed. Gently, slowly, thoroughly. And in the morning, you will wake up with a brain that is measurably cleaner than the one you went to bed with. Your body during N3 is almost completely still. The muscle tone that had been reduced during N1 and N2 has dropped further. Your breathing has slowed to its lowest rate of the night. Your heart rate is at its lowest regular rhythm. Your blood pressure has fallen. Your digestive system is at its most active, processing and absorbing quietly. Your core temperature has settled at its nightly floor. You are, by almost every measurable parameter, at the deepest resting state your body reaches in a 24-hour day. And yet inside, everything is happening. How long you spend in deep sleep varies by age and by night. In young adults, a typical night might include 80 to 100 minutes of N3 sleep, concentrated largely in the first half of the night. By the time most people reach their 50s, that number has often dropped significantly, sometimes to half of what it once was. We will return to this question on another night, because what we lose when we lose deep sleep is immense, and what we can do to preserve it is worth knowing. For now, you are here in the deep, and everything that matters is being tended to. Stay with me, because after your first visit to deep sleep, which may last 20 to 40 minutes if your night is going well, something extraordinary is going to happen. Your brain is going to rise back out of N3, pass briefly through N2, and then cross into a state unlike any of the ones we have seen so far. A state in which your body becomes temporarily paralyzed and your mind comes alive. REM sleep is the strangest stage of the night, and in many ways, the most misunderstood. The acronym stands for Rapid Eye Movement, and it refers to one of the most visible signatures of the state. Beneath your closed lids, your eyes will be darting back and forth, sometimes gently, sometimes with startling speed, as though you were watching something, which, in a sense, you are. Because REM is the stage of sleep in which you do most of your dreaming. When sleep researchers first identified REM in the 1950s, they were astonished. They had assumed that sleep was a single, uniform state, a long, slow descent into quiet. What they discovered instead was that the sleeping brain, at regular intervals, does something nearly paradoxical. It wakes up, in a sense, while the body stays behind. During REM, your brain activity looks remarkably like the activity of waking. The slow, rolling delta waves of deep sleep are gone. In their place are fast, irregular, busy patterns. Patterns so similar to wakefulness that researchers sometimes call REM paradoxical sleep. Your brain, by almost every electrical measure, is awake, but your body is not. In REM, you are paralyzed. Not entirely. Your eyes still move, your breathing continues, your heart beats, but the skeletal muscles of your arms, legs, torso, and neck are held in a state of deep inhibition. They cannot move. This paralysis, called REM atonia, is controlled by specific circuits in your brainstem, and it is profoundly important. Without it, you would act out your dreams. You would kick, swing, run, climb, fall out of bed. The paralysis is what keeps you safe. It is your body's way of letting your mind do whatever it is going to do tonight, without letting you hurt yourself in the process. There is a rare sleep disorder called REM behavior disorder, in which this paralysis fails to engage. People with REM behavior disorder have been documented doing extraordinary things in their sleep, punching, kicking, jumping from beds, injuring themselves and their partners. This is the rare exception. For almost everyone, almost every night, the paralysis works. And you lie there, still, while your brain goes on its journey. What is the brain doing during REM? This is one of the most active questions in sleep research, and there is no single answer. But a number of things are clear. REM sleep appears to be involved in emotional processing. During waking hours, when you experience something emotionally significant, good or difficult, your brain tags that experience and stores it. During REM, it appears to be revisited. Studies have shown that the emotional intensity of memories tends to soften across a night of REM sleep. You can still remember what happened, but the feeling of it often loses some of its sharpness. This is part of why sleep is sometimes described as nature's therapist. When you sleep well, you tend to wake up feeling that things are more manageable than they felt the night before. When you sleep poorly, particularly when your REM sleep is disrupted, you may wake up with emotional material still feeling raw and close. REM sleep also appears to be involved in creative insight. Studies have shown that when people are allowed to sleep after being given a difficult problem, they are more likely to find solutions that require unusual or lateral thinking. The brain, it seems, uses REM to make connections that waking consciousness cannot easily make. Ideas that seem distant while awake are brought together. Patterns are discovered. The mind, unmoored from the constraints of the day, roams. And then there are the dreams. Dreams are the most mysterious part of REM, and despite centuries of investigation, we still do not fully understand why they happen or what they mean. What we do know is that dreams during REM are typically vivid, narrative, emotionally engaging, and often strange. You may be somewhere you have never been, doing something you have never done, in the company of people who do not exist. You may fly, you may fall, you may be chased, you may be reunited with someone you have lost. The dream may feel urgently meaningful in the moment, and then, upon waking, dissolve almost entirely from memory. This dissolution is not accidental. Your brain, during REM, appears to suppress the neurochemical activity that would normally consolidate the experience into long-term memory. Most dreams are designed, in effect, to be forgotten. Only the ones that occur just before waking, or the ones that are emotionally intense enough to break through this suppression, tend to be remembered. The first REM period of the night is relatively brief, typically only 5 to 10 minutes. It will come, in most cases, about 90 minutes after you first fell asleep. It is the culmination of your first sleep cycle, the first complete journey through N1, N2, N3, back up through N2 and into RM. And after this first REM, your brain will begin a new cycle, descending again through the stages, though the shape of the night will now begin to change. Each subsequent sleep cycle is also about 90 minutes long, but the proportions inside them shift. In the first half of the night, cycles are dominated by N3, deep sleep. In the second half of the night, cycles are dominated by REM, dreaming sleep. Your first REM period may be only a few minutes. By the final cycle of the night, a single REM period may stretch for 30 minutes or more. This is why, if you are someone who remembers dreams, you tend to remember the ones that occurred near the morning, because they were the longest, the richest, and the closest to waking. But all of that is still ahead of us. We have followed you through your first complete cycle. N1, into N2, into N3, back to N2, and into REM. 90 minutes, or thereabouts. And it matters, more than most people realize, that these 90 minutes went well. Because what happens in the first cycle sets the tone for the entire night. The first 90 minutes of sleep are, by many measures, the most important 90 minutes of your night. This is where the largest pulse of growth hormone is released. This is where the glymphatic system begins its most intensive clearing. This is where the deepest slow-wave sleep typically occurs. This is where your body does the foundational work that every subsequent cycle will build upon. When this first cycle is disrupted, the entire night tends to suffer, not just in the first hour, but in every hour that follows. This is why what you do in the hour before bed matters so much. Because you are not just falling asleep, you are shaping the first 90 minutes. Alcohol, for example, is one of the most common disruptors of the first cycle. People often believe that a drink before bed helps them sleep because it reliably helps them fall asleep faster. And it does. But what research consistently shows is that alcohol fragments the sleep that follows. It suppresses REM, it reduces deep sleep, it increases nighttime awakenings, especially in the second half of the night. You fall asleep faster, and you sleep worse. The first cycle, in particular, is often shortened and flattened, the deep sleep window compressed, the growth hormone pulse reduced. Eating late in the evening can also disrupt the first cycle. The body is not designed to descend into deep sleep while actively digesting a heavy meal. Digestion requires blood flow, energy, and time, and it interferes with the temperature drop and parasympathetic engagement that sleep requires. Current findings suggest that finishing dinner at least 2 to 3 hours before bed allows the digestive system to quiet down enough for the night's biology to proceed cleanly. Screen light in the hour before bed is another significant disruptor. The short wavelength blue light emitted by phones, tablets, and televisions is particularly good at suppressing melatonin production. This was the signal the body needed hours ago to begin preparing for sleep. When that signal is interrupted by late evening screen exposure, the whole cascade gets pushed back. You may still fall asleep, but the first cycle may be shallower than it should be, and the whole night downstream is affected. Stress and late evening mental activity can do something similar. When the mind is still actively engaged with the problems of the day, the sympathetic branch of the nervous system remains elevated, and the parasympathetic branch has a harder time coming online. Cortisol, which should be at its lowest around bedtime, may still be elevated. The temperature drop may be slower. The descent into N1 and N2 may take longer, and the first deep sleep window may be disrupted or delayed. What helps then is doing the opposite. Dim light in the hour before bed. Minimal screens. Finish eating early. Keep the room cool. Do something quiet. A book, a conversation, a slow stretch, a hot bath that cools you down afterward. These are not just nice-to-haves. They are the conditions under which the first 90 minutes can do what they are designed to do. And if you are listening to this now, already settled in, already in your descent, already doing the slow work of crossing the threshold, then you have already given your body what it needs. Let it do the rest. We have followed you from the last light of the day all the way down into your first complete cycle of sleep. From the signal in your eyes to the pineal gland and the first rise of melatonin, through the slow drop in temperature and the handoff of your nervous system from its active branch to its restorative one. Across the threshold of hypnagogia, where the mind drifts and the body lets go. Into N1, the softest of the stages, where the world begins to recede. Into N2, the largest room in the house, where sleep spindles begin their quiet work and memories of the day are sorted and filed. Into N3, the deep, where growth hormone surges and the brain is washed clean and the immune system moves into its fullest labor. And into REM, the strangest stage of all, where your body is held still so your mind can travel wherever it needs to go. 90 minutes. Give or take. One cycle, one of 4 or 5 or 6 you will complete tonight, each one a little different, each one doing its own particular work, each one leaving you slightly more restored than the cycle before. There is something worth sitting with here before we close, which is that everything we have just described is happening inside you without any effort on your part. You did not design this system. You did not decide to make it work. You did not have to learn how. You were given this freely the day you were born. You have been doing it every night of your life, whether you slept well or poorly, whether you remembered your dreams or not, whether you paid attention to it or ignored it entirely. Your body knows what to do. It has always known. There is a particular peace that comes with understanding this. So much of life requires our attention, our effort, our will. We have to decide, we have to plan, we have to act, we have to choose. Sleep does not ask any of that. Sleep asks only that we stop, that we lie down, that we let the lights go dim and the room go quiet and the body settle. The biology does the rest. It always has. If you are still awake as these words come to a close, you may notice that you are not as awake as you were when they began. You may notice that your eyelids are heavier, that your breathing has deepened, that the edges of the room have softened, that the world feels somehow a little farther away than it did a little while ago. This is not because of anything you did. This is your body doing what it was made to do. The descent is underway. You may already be in N1. You may already have crossed. Somewhere in the last few minutes, the threshold may have come and gone, and you may be listening from a place that is not quite waking anymore. That is what this was always for. We will be back on another night to follow you through another layer of this remarkable thing your body does. There is so much more. The deep sleep window and everything it does for your cells, the glymphatic system, and the overnight cleaning of the brain, the architecture of the sleep cycles and why the first cycle matters disproportionately, the slow changes that happen as we age, the immune system and its night work, the long relationship between sleep and how our cells are able to renew themselves year after year, decade after decade. All of it is waiting. All of it is part of the same story. The story of what your body does every night between the last light and the first. For tonight, this is enough. Let yourself settle. Let the words fade. Let your breath do what it wants to do. Let the cool air on your face be the last thing you notice. Or don't notice it at all. Let the room go. Let the sound of the voice become a soft current, and the current carry you down. Your body knows where it is going. It has always known. Good night.
Stars, moon, and stars in the folding sky. I know the